These machines, of course, were not computers.
Welcome back to episode 3 of the Sorry We're Open show. It seems now to be transforming much more than a podcast. Today we are here at Steep Mountain Teahouse. Shout out to Liz, the new GM, for opening up the space up prior to business hours for us. I have Allie joining me today. I'm going to introduce her in just a second. More on Sorry We're Open as we begin. Again, thanks for tuning in. Sorry We're Open is a show dedicated to sharing the creative corners of the universe from people that we meet. And so Allie is definitely a creator on the space rock. Allie and I have had the privilege, I guess I'll say I have had the privilege of working with Allie on one main project right now. And that seems to kind of shoot off into some other veins as well. So really excited to talk a little bit about that, but really focus the conversation on Allie's creative journey and what led you to today, where we are today here in Bozeman. So Allie, welcome to the show. I'll just give everyone a little bit of an introduction before we begin. Allie is the founder of 2 really unique creative businesses here in Bozeman, Montana. The first being Photobon, a lifestyle cannabis photo business based here. She partners with local yoga studios, other cannabis businesses to create some really popping media content that they leverage in their branding. Most recently, she's the founder of Montana Cannabis Magazine, which is all focused on sustainability efforts within this industry, within the great state of Montana. She's also a piano player, adores disposable cameras, and we share this together. We're a Midwest transplant out here to the West. So Allie, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yes. Okay. Well, you started today with a little bit of a yoga session. I know also something in prep for this conversation that we talked about was how important yoga is in your creative energy, if you will. So I guess what's on your mind this morning coming off of that practice, joining us here, and then we can get into a little bit of that.
Yeah, definitely. So the yoga studio I go to, Bend Beyond in town, has yoga and Pilates classes. So it's a great mix and variety of the different postures and energies that can go on. But yeah, today we had a Pilates class. Something that's on my mind today is just how thankful I am for the community that I have there. There's so many regulars that I get to see every morning, and that definitely is part of what keeps me going back. And having names to call out, hearing my name from familiar voices is always just super motivating. And yeah, I think that will tie into a lot of other parts of my journey, just like that community aspect. So yeah.
Very nice. How long have you been going to Bend Beyond? Or I guess bigger question is, how long have you kind of used yoga as part of your daily practice, if you will?
So I started yoga in high school. I never really went to a studio before, so I was always just on my own.
Cool.
I started going to Bend Beyond almost 3 years ago, and I would say that's when it really started integrating into my artistic practices.
Okay.
Something that I immediately think of is just the breath work that can transfer into any part of your life. When I find myself stressed, I just try and focus on my breath when I'm working, and it kind of pulls me back into the moment, what I'm doing, instead of other ideas about maybe what other people would think and just outside thoughts.
That's a great little nugget. Focus on your breath. I could definitely do more of that. Thanks for sharing what's on your mind today.
Of course.
You know, as I prepared for this morning, I'm really excited to unpack with you not only your kind of creative journey into what you're doing now, but really what feels like work that you've done to define what's important to you within your creative practice, and also just some more personal things, you know, around solitude, around peace, around creating in an open space with others. And I think a lot of people will resonate with and find interesting. So with that, as we prepared, you made a comment about disposable cameras turning into iPads and kind of how that disposable camera era of your childhood really put the battery in your back to, Photobond, then MCM. Back us out all the way into kind of when you picked up that first disposable and what that meant to you, what you were taking photos of back then, and kind of how that translates into the energy that goes into your photos now.
Yeah, so my dad introduced me to photography when I was super young. I think it was fourth grade that I saved up my babysitting money for my first disposable camera. And I remember bringing it to recess and feeling a little bit of like nervousness and like judgment from the other kids, like, why do you have that sort of thing? But then something switched and they were really excited to like be in the photos and think of things to take photos of with me. And then I remember at the end of that school year, I made a little slideshow and my teacher put it on the screen on like the last day of school. And everybody was just super excited to be in the photos. And going back to that sense of community, I think photos have a way of connecting people and telling their story in a way that they themselves aren't necessarily able to see. So yeah, I think I was able to recognize how valuable and how much that meant to me personally. So yeah, just having those disposable cameras only take like 26 photos or whatnot, and then allowing that to turn into something bigger has been really important for me.
Very cool. At recess, I have so many recess memories. That's funny.
Right.
That's a great story.
Thank you.
Another thing that I think you shared with me in terms of kind of the way in which you go about your work today, it feels very mature. It feels very well-rounded, but it also feels very free and open to the world. I know I used a lot of just really round words there. I promise that we'll assign some meaning to those. But, one thing that has really stood out to me in working with you over the last handful of months is how peaceful you are when you go about your work. And I think when we were in preparation for this, you told me that, one thing that I have to have within, whatever space I'm creating or whatever project I'm working on is solitude. Talk about how important solitude is to your creative practice, that peace, that calmness with yourself, in collaborating with others, with the work. Talk about solitude.
Yeah, I feel really grateful because I recently have been able to create sort of an office where I'm living. So this room is where I'm able to just kind of let myself be alone, be in solitude, and have no wrong answers, just trying things, not fearing any judgment, even if I have like my time lapse going and there's a camera on me, like I can delete that. Like, I don't know. I think there's something about just trying and not worrying about failing. And in solitude, I just sometimes experience a little bit more freedom and creatively. And I think that coming back with others is really important, but having that chance to be alone and have no wrong answers is just equally, if not more.
That's impactful. Do you think that, if you were to give a ratio on the time that you spend alone versus the time that you bring the work back to a group or an individual for feedback, how important is it to have that big body of calm, quiet, one-to-one work time between you and the work, and versus like what I know you appreciate, which is collaboration and feedback, which is also great. But how do you balance that as you continue to understand how important solitude is to you and your process?
Yeah, I'm definitely still figuring out like a schedule, right? Because I want to have days where I'm like speaking with so many people, absorbing ideas, getting feedback, but then having those days where I am alone. And I find if I have like an appointment with someone, a Zoom meeting at like 3 p.m., I kind of get distracted by that throughout the day. So I think I need like 3 days of the week kind of for myself to be focused, and then 2 days, so like maybe like 60-40 type of thing.
Okay.
Just a little bit of majority on me. And then, bringing it back and seeing how I can improve based on just other feedback and ideas.
That really leads us to what you're working on today with MCM as kind of you leading this communal, collaborative sustainability effort, if I can call it that. Let's talk a little bit about MCM. Let's talk about, you having the initial vision, finding the right troops to weigh in on the work at specific times where, maybe you needed a little bit more help or you wanted a fresh take. First, let's talk about MCM just as a project for you and what it means to you, and maybe one really exciting thing for you as you've spent the last kind of 6-8 months working on it.
Yeah. To me, Montana Cannabis Magazine is kind of like a light, hopefully, in the industry that can help people find sustainable options, whether that be like consumption, packaging, finding, cannabis that's been grown in clean ways. I guess I just hope that it has the impact that I'm going for. In the end, I want it to eliminate single-use plastics in the industry. I would love to see less pop top bottles and doob tubes on the streets. I just imagine a world where people can use the same jar for their buds and bring it back to the dispensary every time and not have to collect endless plastic bags and bottles. And I think it can be like that. And I think it can also benefit businesses and the industry as a whole.
What's the journey been like, with Montana being a state where everything is legalized, right? Mm-hmm. What has your experience been like now that cannabis is legalized in Montana? What's your experience been like working with these businesses, approaching them with this idea of sustainability in the lens of trying to collaborate and create, a very mutually beneficial, not partnership, but working relationship to where you're working on things that are going to benefit the entire industry that includes them? What's your experience been like working with businesses?
It's honestly just been so rewarding. I have a huge smile on my face because I'm just thinking of so many kind words that I've received from business owners who are making a lot of efforts to grow sustainably with living soil, or are paying more for packaging that's made from like hemp-based products or recycled materials. These people are so grateful that Montana Cannabis Magazine could potentially be this spotlight on them to allow them to thrive and create something for the industry that will benefit its consumers, because that is what it's all about. They want their consumers to be able to enjoy clean, green cannabis, and the only way they can do that is if they know about it. So I am just so thankful that there are so many people out there putting in the work and doing so much research. And I feel really lucky to be able to listen and share what they're doing with people who can really benefit from it as well. That's
great. And that's also got to be energizing, empowering, not feedback, but just energy that you get from them in terms of how that's fueling the Cannabis Magazine work. Explain maybe a scenario or a demo issue photo shoot or something like that where you felt like that's really put even more of the charge in the battery on your back to make this thing.
Yeah, when I was out in Billings with Ryan from Sensi Care, she was explaining to me just how important the living soil community is to her, because she's able to learn from this nationwide group of enthusiasts who are learning and sharing about the soil food web. And she was just explaining that she's so open to implementing new practices and learning from other people, because at the end of the day, they have these people who maybe aren't making the greenest decisions to compete with. So like hydroponic growers are able to scale a little bit more differently. And so I suppose just helping people see the value and maybe paying a few more dollars for their cannabis. She just really expressed gratitude for the magazine potentially communicating those values. And
very cool. There was a moment in our prep call where you mentioned a Mel Robbins. I don't know if it was an Instagram video or a podcast. You mentioned that you've been listening to her more often than not. What I thought was most powerful out of your takeaway was her take on just do it. And I want you to explain that phrase, how you received that phrase in that moment, and then how you've kind of carried that with her meaning into your meaning, and how you've committed to more things, or understood more about your brain, and just don't focus on what you can't do, focus on what you can do right now. Talk a little bit about the Mel Robbins just do it thing.
Yes, I've been really enjoying Mel Robbins lately. This was a Q&A that she was doing, and I forget the question, but when she was getting into the just do it, she was talking about the most important word of the phrase. It's not do, and it's not it's the just, and it acknowledges what is holding us back, that no matter how tired you are, what's on your mind, who's waiting for you, whatever, you just have to do it. And that has just been really powerful for me lately with the magazine. Like whenever I feel doubt or insecurity about what this page could turn out like what the advertisers might, or the companies might think of who I'm making advertisements for. It's like, you just have to do it, and then you can get some feedback from other people, that like 40%, but it's like, you really gotta look past what could be wrong. Just acknowledging that there are gonna be things setting you back, but either way, in the end, you just have to try your best. And I love that it just makes sense to me. Oh my goodness.
It simplifies it too, right?
Definitely. And actually the other day she was talking about how we spend our time with so many different people, but from like the ages of like 20 to 60, we spend the most of our time with our coworkers. So when we were talking about community earlier, and then I knew we were going to talk about Mel, I was thinking about how like I'm so lucky because I kind of get to choose my coworkers. Like I just get to research, and if someone is, if I am able to find someone who is relevant to the magazine, I just reach out to them and we start connecting. And I feel so grateful to be able to surround myself with individuals, not only in the cannabis industry, but people who care about the planet or are creative in a bunch of different ways. And I think there's so much power in that community. So yeah.
With that, I love that. Just do it. That's the maybe one of the phrases for the year. Quick question before we move into closing up shop. And this is, I think, something that everyone struggles with, but it's just it's maybe a self-talk thing. I don't know, but you made an interesting comment when unpacking the just do it around looking past the what's right in front of you, all of the, potentially the doubt, also the, what is this going to turn out like? Is the advertiser going to be receptive of this? But that's all before you put a pixel on the page, right? How have you, with so many of these reps and the issues in college that you put together as part of the passion project, now translating into the real thing, how have you learned to look past that initial version 0, ambiguity and get to version 1 in a confident manner?
Ooh, that is such a great question. Honestly, yeah, at that pixel 0, it's just about getting elements onto the page. And I think, so I use InDesign, and that's what I learned in school. And I think just throwing anything, like a few rectangles, a few pictures, maybe even like no words, or just playing with a bunch of different fonts, like you or typefaces. Like you have to just throw something down to know what's not gonna work. And I think that has been the biggest part, or like hurdle to get over, is just like throwing things out. Like, yeah, like it's not, there's no consequences because you know it's not the final draft. You just get to keep going, but laying that foundation of playful colors, just seeing what feels and resonates with you immediately. But yeah, just getting them onto the screen so you have something to deal with is such an important start.
I love that. Just put a pixel on the page and then it'll unfold from there.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing that. As kind of the last segment of the show here, how we always wrap up with a handful of just rapid fire questions called closing up shop. So I'm going to hit you with them.
Okay.
What's one album, or, you know, what are you listening to right now that you're really in love with?
Oh gosh. I'm kind of always listening to Mount Joy.
Okay.
I feel like that's so Bozeman, but like the first song that comes into my head is Sheep by them. Just like good energy. Me and my partner always like to throw on like the Stomp and Holler mix from Spotify.
Okay.
It's always good energy.
That's a very specific response. We'll have to pull that up in the studio later.
Yes, please.
What are you watching right now, or any sort of movies or shows that have really sparked your interest?
I haven't really been watching much. We've been watching the Harry Potter series.
Okay.
We're on the second to last one, the first one of the 7th movie. But yeah, honestly, this is gonna sound so nerdy. I've been watching the August Bradley Notion series on YouTube, helping me set up my databases.
That's awesome.
I find them so entertaining.
That's great. Yeah, totally. That's like watching a puzzle being made in a way, a digital puzzle.
100%. And it helps. It's cool.
What is sparking your curiosity or creativity outside of your normal realms? Anything that's really jumping off the page here or there, or, oh my gosh, I'd be interested in more about that.
Yeah, I would say these past few weeks I've been cooking a lot more. I've been finding new recipes, and I would say like trying to introduce more fruits and veggies. Like I was really struggling to find lemongrass the other day because I've never had to buy it, but like, I don't know, I think it's really great to get out of your comfort zone with foods. And even if that means like going to the grocery store and having to ask like, where is this? Like, it's really fun because there's so many cool foods out there. And I feel like I've been learning more about different cultures and stuff along the way. So
really cool. Final question for you. Where can people follow along, learn more about you? You know, you've got some exciting things with Montana Cannabis Magazine coming up. Lay it out for people where they can follow along and where they can be involved too.
Yeah, definitely. You guys can find us on our Instagram at mtcannamag, or our website, montanacannabismagazine.com. We have our quarterly issues coming up soon, promoting sustainable cannabis in Montana and throughout the nation. And yeah, we are just always looking for creatives, people who are trying to make the earth a better place.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Allie, for joining us on Sorry We're Open. We're here again today in the beautiful Steep Mountain Teahouse. Shout out to Liz for letting us use the space and making this happen. Thank you so much for the time and the conversation.
Thank you so much for having me, Ben. This was absolutely lovely.
I'm very excited to have Brandish as the first sponsor of the Sorry We're Open podcast. Josh, founder of Brandish, guest on the first episode of the podcast is here to tell you more about them.
Yeah. So we partner with marketing teams and agencies to help introduce AI solutions and strategies to the way that they go about work. So if you're an agency owner and you have a bunch of clients and you're getting pinged about, hey, what can we do about AI this or AI that, or you have questions about your own operation, we help you sort through all the noise to identify what are the solutions that are going to be the best for your brand and for the way that you want to conduct business, as well as your customers. So if you have ideas about how to deploy, or if you have questions really about how to deploy and help your customers achieve their objectives as a business, but you need a thought leader and a partner to help guide you through that in collaboration, Brandish is going to be the team that can help you pull that off. So we do all sorts of services from AI automation, the consulting piece, training and development, looking at augmenting your team with different technologies and tools, pretty much where people, process, and product exist. That's where we're going to come in and help you sort through your biz ops.